welcome to Shar Music's Unvarnished interview series. My name is Ashley, and I'm here today with Jordan Hamilton. He is an award-winning cellist and an accomplished songwriter, producer, all of the above. And today he's going to speak with us about experimentation with different genres and how he has evolved into the player, artist, and musician that he is today. So tell me, you began playing the cello at 8 years old, and you've always had a profound connection with the instrument. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved and how that developed when you were a child.
So when I was 8 years old, I was in Montessori school, and my mom transferred me to an arts magnet school. And there, it was the introduction class where they would introduce us to like the violin, viola, cello, or drama class or art. And so the orchestra teacher came around and was like, this is the violin, boom, boom, boom. This is the bass, woo, woo, woo. And she played the cello. And I heard the cello and I got really excited. And I stood up and I just ran up and down the classroom. So I want to play cello, I want to play cello. So I took lessons. And taking lessons, cello was bigger than me. I enjoyed it. I loved the sound of it. And then I joined orchestra class, and that was cool because all of my friends were in the orchestra. And then we had these trips that we would go on, so that was also cool. I got to travel, and then it's always been a little cycle, the next breadcrumb after another.
So that's a little bit about your background. What kept you, connected to music as you kept going? And like you just mentioned, high school. How did it keep going until college level?
Yeah, breadcrumb after breadcrumb. In middle school, I had a great experience with music in that my middle school teacher had passed away. And so we played at her funeral. And I remember that day very clearly. And I remember the loss that the school felt from just having a musician miss. And that was a very connecting experience for all of my friends there. And it was a very igniting experience for us to continue studying music. But also at that time, I was really inspired by some of the older players and the pieces that they were playing, like the Bach. So I started practicing a lot in middle school and auditioned for Arts Magnet School, high school. And it was the best high school in the county. And it was very intimidating because the orchestra conductor was very strict. So I enjoyed that type of competition or that type of bar that was set. And so I auditioned for the school, I got in, and I was the worst. And so I practiced a lot. And then I got into another program at the Kennedy Center, and I was the worst. But so I practiced a lot. And then I got to go watch the National Symphony Orchestra rehearse, and that kind of opened my eyes up to the world of orchestras and how they run. We would have Q&As with all the musicians, all the soloists that would come in, like Itzhak Perlman, Hannah Chang, all of them. So I would ask them a ton of questions. I was just the kid that I just asked them a lot of questions, personal questions. Probably shouldn't have been asking them. But they enjoyed that, and I got to know what type of musicians they were and what it was like to be a musician. And that inspired me to really practice as well. So that inspired me to go to school for it. And I went to BW. That inspired me to do X, Y, and Z.
And then what happened that got you to Michigan after that?
Yeah, so undergrad, I was, mostly set on trying to be in an orchestra. And I had left Maryland and went to undergrad in Berea, Ohio, which is where the Cleveland airport is and where the Cleveland Browns practice, but so small and the complete opposite of what the DMV is in Maryland.
Did they have a good music program?
Had a great cello teacher.
Okay.
And a lot of my colleagues in the same grade, we challenged each other, and it was great. Had a great orchestra conductor too. And they had a Bach festival. I was obsessed with Bach. So that kind of was what sold it for me, and I practiced a lot. I just practiced 6 hours a day. But then I started realizing that there was a lot of music that I wasn't experiencing there that I was experiencing at home. So when I was coming up through high school orchestras, I would still hear all the different music in high school. But when I was in Berea, I would just hear some of the orchestra stuff, which I love, but then I got introduced to like the Beatles or like the Rolling Stones and some of the other stuff. And I was like, well, okay, this is cool. But then, you know, they would always shun like playing like Temptations or all the other stuff. But then, or like Kanye West. But then they would let us play like the Beatles. And that kind of threw me off because I was like, why are we playing Sly and the Family Stone? Like, why are we playing Temptations? So that kind of just threw me off. But then that made me get more interested in what that music is, because in high school, I wouldn't study it because the focus of classical training is like really focus on your concertos, focus on the pieces that you're learning, which is good. It's putting the blinders on. But in undergrad, I figured, you know, I need to take the blinders off and learn more about music in general. So I said I wasn't going to go to grad school, and I was just going to go home and just practice and study. And then I met this teacher at Western, Bruce Uchimura. It's great. He recruited me to come to Western. He said, well, you can do that, but, you know, just come study with me and we'll figure out.
How did you meet Bruce?
I got like a little residency at this camp called Cello and American Society. Now it has a different name. It's in Minnesota. Good camp, great camp. Had a lot of good cellists from around the world. Anna Cliff runs it. And so I was out there doing like the residency for a week, where I would just kind of play some of the concerts, take some lessons. And Bruce was teaching there. So I took lessons with him. I was telling him what I was thinking, where I was going, because he's like, where are you going to grad school? I'm like, I'm out. He's like, just come. And so I took the chance and I came to Kalamazoo. I found an apartment on Craigslist. I think, a month later, I just drove up to Kalamazoo in the middle of the night.
And you mentioned that Bruce was somebody that definitely inspired you, and it all kind of came full circle since you were taking lessons growing up and in all these different music programs. How has that inspired you personally as an adult to teach? And tell me about some of the things you've been doing as a teacher yourself now.
Yeah, as a teacher, I think, you know, my number one focus as a cello instructor is to try and pass down some of the nuggets that my teachers gave to me first, you know, repetition, you know, having a relaxed body, keeping the bow at the perfect angle. You know, I'll definitely address all those things, but me personally, I like to add inspiration to it. So I'm always challenging my students, like, what do you want to play? What things are you listening to? What things make you excited? You know, what did you hear today that got you excited?
And that keeps them engaged.
If I keep asking them that question, then maybe they're searching for it in their life. And then they can have a connection with music on a deeper level versus just coming to me and having me tell them exactly what they want to do. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's not personalized to you. You're completely different than me. So I think a lot of my students end up having their own individual swag. And the ones that really catch on to it, they're bringing me songs, which is really fire. I love that.
I know that you collaborate with a lot of different artists.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how, you know, that influences you as a musician and maybe some of the stuff that you've been working on in these collaborations?
Yeah, first, like when I went back to Maryland after that camp, you know, or before I went to that camp, I had sat down and came up with some goals of mine, and like action-oriented goals, not like, you know, I need to have a Grammy by this end of time. Never even wanted a Grammy. I don't know why. Never knew that world, for real. But, so the one thing that I love about orchestra is that you're watching your friends grow and you're playing music together, you're growing together, and you're also, you know, embarking on that mission together to perform that piece at a great level. I love that. How do I get that without being in orchestra? And so the way I defined it is, okay, be a part of like a music collective that helps each other grow in music and life, or that watches each other grow in music and life. So that's kind of always been a principle that I look for in my musical endeavors. So when I came up to Michigan, immediately I was just looking where other people were doing. and seeing where the cello could fit in. And I wasn't trying to just fit in like a cello would usually fit in. I was trying to figure out different ways the cello can fit in. So I naturally ended up being with a bunch of different people. And so, I played cello with a lot of people, and it may not fit, and I've been trying to find ways that it can fit more and more. And right now it's kind of narrowed down in a few groups that I play with. So the Last Gasp Collective was one of the first groups that I performed and like refined my chops over, and my role is always kind of weaved in and out, like the sound sonically what the cello is doing.
How many years have you been involved with that project?
That's like 7 years. And so Jay Jackson has been one of the main visionaries behind the group. And then there's been a bunch of other musicians that have come and gone and added their style to it, and we've taken it or we've left some styles behind. So that's one group. I play a lot with a legendary folk artist in Michigan named Seth Bernard. And so I play in his band a lot, but then also we've been doing this duo setup where I play acoustic cello, he plays acoustic guitar, and it's fire. I play a lot with The Lasso, and we just made this record called Tri Magi, and that's a trio between a saxophone, cello, and just production. But then we've added a jazz keyboardist named Grayson Nye. And then I've also played with the Southwest Michigan Symphony Orchestra. I play with a quartet called Calhaven Strings. I get hired to play on a bunch of people's records.
And you've released a couple solo albums. You had the Vibrations in 2021.
Yeah.
And Believin' was last year as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of your solo work?
Yeah, so I think I have, 4 solo EPs out. I would say Believin' is, I made a lot of those beats on my MPC. I had got in an accident a while ago and broke my collarbone, so I couldn't play cello. And usually when I'm producing, cello is like my main thing. But I was just making the beats on my MPC. And then I had, I had a bunch of songs, a bunch of beats. And so I was just making songs like that. And that's what that EP is. And so it has like a more of a drum heavy type of style, but also there's some songs that are less lyrical, which is cool. That's a style I'm gravitating towards. And then Vibrations is a completely instrumental record, and I always describe it to myself as like the album that I wanted to give my orchestra teacher or my cello teachers, you know? This is what I wanted to introduce to the classical music world. And then My Thoughts Are was like my first EP kind of, and that one got like a Local Spins Album of the Year or something like that. And then the album that came, and that's like a wide range of stuff, has like a folk song kind of on there, and then has like a hip hop song on there. Yeah. And then,
it was kind of your solo introduction, so you mixed it all together.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to tell everybody who I was. And then For Renland, the one before that, was like also a non-lyric heavy record, just 3 songs, and I kind of just made soundscapes, which was cool. I like that. So those are the things I did solo. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've been able to kind of, surf the whole spectrum with music, and you do mix in classical elements with all of the production, everything, all types of music, which a lot of people tend to get pigeonholed, but it's really beautiful that you're able to do that.
Yeah.
What advice would you have to students that want to branch out, whether they're in one realm or another? What advice do you have to them?
Yeah, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah, and very generic, but like really find that stuff that you like, and then there's that like what's gonna happen is you can read music and you can know you're doing it right. When you're doing something that you want to do, you're gonna play it and you're gonna be like, oh, this is not right, this is not right. Don't shy away from that feeling. Like keep leaning into it and keep messing up, keep figuring it out. That's what I would inspire the young people, the young students to do, even the grown students to do that. Really lean into that uncomfort. Also, listen to something and really try to copy what it is. Like recreate it for yourself. that's a good practical way to try and get that.
And it is Black History Month. You were telling me about your orchestra that you've put together for students ages 3 to 12. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you're also promoting Black composers?
Yeah, so that program is called Orchestra Jambalaya, and it started in 2020 as a joint collaboration between a Suzuki program, Jinbei Yaru, and then the school that I teach with called HLFGMC. And they all do 3 different things, but they came together on the sole purpose of trying to get more Black composers to string players, and then also arranging Black artist music for string players. Because there's this alienation in your school studies, like in your music studies. You don't really play music that's embraced a lot by Black culture. So, or you get to the top of your studies and you find that all of your repertoire doesn't translate to anything that's in your community. So we want to try and combat that and give students the resources to be able to learn that together, and then also empower them to make their own music.
So I'd like to hear more about the instruments that you play.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the cellos that you're currently playing on and any of the other instruments that you're utilizing right now. I know you do acoustic and electric, and you're also, doing all the loops and all the different production stuff. So what do you want to tell me about, like, your gear?
So I primarily play my solo shows with my electric cello, which was made by a company named RAD, in Canada in like the 90s. And they don't have electric cellos. No one used electric cellos back then. So it was kind of sitting just idly for like 20 years. And then I found it. And it's great because it's like a semi-hollow cello. So it has the reverberation of cello, but then it's just amplified, which a lot of electric cellos are not really like that. And then I go through some pedals and stuff, and then I play with my MPC, my drums, and I run that all through a loop pedal, and then I go when I'm playing solo. And then I have my acoustic cello, which was made by House of Weaver in DC. Now Potter's Violin is what it's called. And it's one of 6. It's a cello that has 2 different woods on it, front and back. And then, both great cellos. I got both of those cellos because parents bought them for their children who lost interest, and they were both sitting in their basements. So thank you for moving on with life.
Do you want to talk about any more of your upcoming shows, music releases, anything that you've got going on in the near future?
I have one show that's coming up that's going to be really cool because it's going to be set at the Grand Rapids Planetarium, and there's a videographer or just making a bunch of videos to all the different songs that we're going to play, and they're going to have a lighting system. So we're going to play in the planetarium live with my trio, and then I'm going to have a saxophone player as well. So it's me on cello and vocals and loop pedal, Lasso on running all the drum stems and stuff, Grayson and I playing piano, and then Sax Squasher is going to play some saxophone. And that's going to be cool because you're going to be in this little planetarium looking up at all these lights going on and then hearing a live band. And I remember going to see another band do it, and I was blown away.
Are you going to play some of the stuff that you've released with them previously, or is it going to be a lot of improvisation?
I'm gonna play some. There's gonna be improvisation in between songs, always. But then there's gonna be songs that I've previously released from Believin', that last EP, Vibrations, Tri Magi, concerts. I'm playing Slinger shows with Seth Bernard, just the duo setup, which is fire. It's a great sound. Cello and guitar is always beautiful. And then I'm running some solo shows in March. And then summertime, up to, I don't know every show that I'm going to play in the summer yet, but yeah, March and April, I'm running some shows with the trio, that planetarium show. I'm running some shows with Seth Bernard, and then solo.
Well, we can keep an eye and an ear out for new music and check your website and socials and such. Thank you so much for your time today, Jordan.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here at Shar Music for our Unvarnished interview series.
Unvarnished. My cello
And-
needs a varnish.
We'll keep an eye out.